Hey, welcome back to my channel. I'm Don and I'm a licensed clinical social worker. So today's video is going to be all about what to do if you weren't admitted into a graduate program, more specifically about a social work program, an MSW program, but we are going to dive deeper into some broader topics as well as specific topics within social work. I wanted to discuss this topic because it is application season. This video is being filmed in early September, so there's plenty of time, depending on when you're watching this, to prepare if this has been your story before. I'm clearly filming outside, so don't mind my neighbors' dogs. They are the most adorable. I don't know the name of specific breeds, but if I could get a video of them at the end, I will. But my neighbor's pretty courteous and he sees me out here, so I'm pretty sure he's going to take them in the house. Before you get started, please be sure to make sure you're subscribed to the channel and make sure your notifications are turned on, and I would love to have you join this community if you're not part of this community already. And if you are, thank you so much for joining this community. It means so much to me that you're here. I absolutely love sharing parts of my life, but also sharing my knowledge with you all. It's such an honor to be connected in this way. Each time you all email me or message me on Instagram or LinkedIn, it's such an honor. So keep on sending emails, keep on sending messages, because I absolutely love connecting with you all. That's the reason why I make these videos, to provide mentorship and knowledge and connection and support, because that's what it's about. Finally, I know that while I enjoy mentorship, some of you all are interested in working with me on a more professional level. So if that's something you're interested in, be sure to visit the description box of this video. There will be a link to book an appointment with me. I offer a multitude of services, from professional development that could help with multiple aspects of the application process, to graduate school, like how to ask for a letter of recommendation, how to build a graduate school list, and selecting your program, to applying for and receiving scholarships, as well as navigating the interview process. Also provide tutoring for those who are interested in pursuing their master's or clinical license. I have had much success with tutoring those, and I really appreciate the referrals that I've been receiving. Special shout out to Marvin. He has been sending so many of you all to me, and I really appreciate that, and it's been such an honor to be part of you all's journey. And the last service that I have not been promoting a lot, but that I think is good, is the consultation and clinical supervision. Now, for clinical supervision, you would have to be in the state of Illinois for me to serve as your clinical supervisor. If you're interested in more information about that and you're in Illinois, be sure to send me an email at donzelampkins@gmail.com. And for those of you who are perhaps in other states but you're interested in consultation services, so these are things like treatment modalities to utilize with various persons with varying issues, a multitude of concerns, as well as addressing specific psychopathology, I'm more than happy to provide consultation services for that. That will not count towards your clinical supervision hours, but it's a paid service that I have for individuals who are interested in staffing a case. Maybe you're not getting what you need from your supervisor, or maybe you work in a silo similar to me where you're the only person on your team. Perhaps you have other members but you aren't able to connect with them as much as you'd like, or maybe you are the smartest person on your team and perhaps you need to seek out someone that you think may have new ideas, or who may be exposed to other information and other knowledge that perhaps you have not been exposed to. So the first thing that you want to do if you've been rejected from an MSW program or a graduate school program in general is you want to first and foremost give yourself grace, give yourself compassion, give yourself a congratulatory pat on the back for surviving such a difficult and challenging process. We undermine it because we feel as though everyone is doing it. It's a really low percentage of Americans who, and I mean, I could speak about other countries, but I'm just going to focus on the U.S. since that's where I reside. That there's such a low percentage of individuals who have their bachelor's degree, and then there's an even lower percentage for the master's, and an even lower percentage for their doctorate. So it's something that, because we're engulfed on a university campus, especially for those who are applying during their senior year or something of that nature, it could be really difficult to take in the magnitude of applying to a graduate program, because that's what you're surrounded by every day. You're surrounded by scholars, you're surrounded by professors, you're surrounded by other students. But the reality is, and a lot of people are not going back to school like that. A lot of people are not checking for degrees, and that's okay, to each their own, but it's not as common as it feels when we're on a university campus, especially if you're a part of a historically oppressed group, and especially if you are a first generation college student. It could really feel like you're just not doing enough, that you're so far behind, but in all actuality, you're doing a phenomenal job. You should be proud of yourself, and you should really not be so hard on yourself. Once you've given yourself some love, some TLC, then you should definitely take a moment to reflect about your application process. I can't tell you how many times I went back to review my application process to doctoral programs, and I found so many things that I could have done differently, so many things that I should have done that I didn't do, so many things that maybe I should have left out. That I can't tell you how many times I was like, wow, what was I thinking when I said that or when I did that? And that's why it's so important to receive outside help. So I was going to apply, but then I decided not to apply to doctoral programs this past academic year. But although I am a professional and I'm very gifted at academic and career counseling and advising, I'm going to hire someone the next time around, because it doesn't hurt to have multiple people looking over your application. You can't do everything all the time, and that's one of the things that I did. So don't make the same mistake as I did. Even if you don't work with me, if you're still in school, I receive so many messages from current students, and the first thing I do is I always redirect you back to your undergraduate or your graduate program, and encourage you to reach out to career services there, to reach out to your advisor, to reach out to your instructors, to utilize all of those resources that you are paying tens of thousands of dollars to have. Some of you all choose to incorporate me into that, and I am honored, and I don't take it lightly. But again, I'm never out here to con anyone, and so I'm always like, hey, have you done this, have you done that? And anyone who's worked with me can tell you that even after working with me, I'm giving follow-up calls to see how things are going, to see how can I help, and usually that's free of charge. I'm just like, hey, I'm invested in your wellness, I'm invested in your journey and overall success. And so you're really gaining a support system when working with me. But the overall message that I'm trying to say is that you need to have a community going through this process. So you want to have a community behind you. You want to have folks who are able to provide different insights and perspectives and feedback. So If you don't have that, give yourself that. So if you're unable to speak with someone, it'd be important to have someone review your application materials. Maybe you could reflect about the encounters that you had with your recommenders. That was one thing that I had to do. I had to review the enthusiasm that they had, review their communication style, review what it is that they really could say about me and how it relates to the program. Also, when asking for letters of recommendation, it's very specific that you ask them to be able to write about certain things. It's very important that they're able to use specific language and that they're also able to craft a specific narrative about you that's going to be persuasive. Now, I've figured out what that is and I've been able to adjust accordingly, and I know that it really doesn't matter when I apply. Like, I'm very confident that I will get into a doctoral program if I choose to do that. As you know, I've kind of taken a hiatus and I'm enjoying life postgraduate school, and I'm kind of just allowing myself to become accustomed to not being in school anymore. Because, and that's another thing too, like maybe reflect and ask yourself why you are applying, or why did you apply to a graduate program. Sometimes we apply for things and we don't have the best reasons, and sometimes that is translated into our application process. Sometimes it may look like we don't have a sense of direction, or it isn't clear why that particular program was the best fit. Or sometimes it's very clear that we applied to the wrong programs. I mentioned this in a few other videos, but sometimes we have folks who applied to MSW programs who really should have applied to marriage and family therapy programs. We have folks who apply to MFT programs when really they should have been applying to medical school. We have folks applying to medical school that really should have been applying to PhD in psychology programs. There's people who apply to PhD and clinical psychology programs that should have applied to clinical counseling or counseling psychology or PsyD programs. And that may sound like a nuance, but there are even small differences between a PhD in clinical psychology, a PhD in counseling psychology, and a PhD and a PsyD in clinical psychology. And all of those different programs, whether you're applying to counseling psychology, clinical psychology, or you're applying to psychology within a college of education, what I'm saying is that it's really important that we understand what we're applying for, what we're applying to, and making sure that everything from our resumes to our essays to our writing sample to our recommendations to our portfolio, all of these things are speaking to the validity of you applying to that program, and also you showing the promise. That's the other thing. If there's a red flag in your application, sometimes it's your GRE score. Now, the GRE is not required for MSW programs, but if you're applying to other master's programs, perhaps it may require a GRE score. And if you're applying to a joint program and one program requires it and the other does not, they may look at that score anyway. They may communicate with that department. That isn't always the case, but sometimes departments communicate if you are applying to joint, let's say a joint MSW MBA program or a joint MSW PhD program. They're going to be communicating with each other, and then you may have shown promise for one program but not the other. And so it's important to look at what areas are you lacking in, or what red flags were there? So for instance, when I was pre-med, I had to take some math courses, and I hate it. I don't like math. I'll be the first to tell anybody that. But I knew that if I was going to apply to medical school, I had to turn towards that fear. So I've taken the entire calculus series in college. I've taken stats, I've taken biostats. And so for me, that was a way of showing that, hey, I'm not afraid of numbers. And I'm showing competency in a quantitative skill. And so if I were to apply to a pre-med post-bac, or if I were to apply to something else, then I know that some of those classes that I take, because it's been like 10 years since I've taken a science class, then I know that I would have to show, okay, here's what I'm doing to show relevancy. Here's what I've done to show that I'm interested in that. And not only that I'm interested, but that I'm capable of doing the work. If you are applying to MSW programs and you have all C's and some D's and maybe a B sprinkled throughout in your social science, that's a red flag, because you're applying to a behavioral health science program, and when they look at the relevant coursework and they see that you don't have it, that's a red flag. If you apply to a program and you don't have all of the required classes, typically if you complete a bachelor's degree, you will have the requirements. But again, if you don't show some type of interest, so maybe you have the classes, but you don't have the volunteerism experience, you don't have the internship experience, or you haven't shadowed, or it's clear you don't really know what a social worker is and what their role is and the possibilities with it, and that comes off in the application, that's a red flag as well. So make sure that you have an understanding. I remember Kiana was able to take an intro to social work class. That was brilliant. I did not take an intro to social work class, but I correlated like my medical interest because I had interned in like neurobiology labs, and my research was in neuroimmunology and looking at microRNAs. So for me, it was correlating my interest in glioblastomas and how my biological and scientific and medical experience exposed me to the psychosocial aspects of cancer, and how I was interested in addressing the psychosocial aspects, and that I lacked the knowledge, and so I'm pursuing this MSW to gain that knowledge and to equip myself to address these psychosocial needs. So that is one example of how you can make it make sense, basically. This video is super long, so I'm going to stop here, but I think that I did share a lot. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and comment in the comment section below what's something that I didn't say that you think would also be good for folks to do if they have not been admitted into a graduate program. Also, if you are someone with additional questions, you don't have to disclose whether or not you were accepted to a program. Maybe you're applying to a program and you want to make your application make sense. Ask questions in the comment section below. I'm more than happy to address those questions there. If you want me to review personal documents of yours, you want me to help you craft documents, you want me to help you craft requests, you want me to review things, that's a service, and you're more than welcome to book an appointment with me. The link is in the description box, and I'll be more than happy to work with you. Thanks so much for watching, and until I see you next time, be you, be great.